You don't make your skull much bigger than your hand, okay? It has to be about the size of your hand. Anything bigger might be hard. If you've got a paper plate, see how that fits in there? So it should fit inside this paper plate. Anyway, I made an extra, these are called patterns or templates, and I made an extra one because these get soggy, and if I mess up, I want to make sure I have another one. Do not cut out the eyes or the nose. Now, that video you saw of the lady making one, and she cuts out the eyes and nose, you're not going to do it. Why? Because when you're carting this to school, if there's big holes in here, they could crack and break. I'm just trying to think, okay, and there's so many moving parts to teaching online like this, that's another one I have to worry about. All right. Your skulls can't be this thick. They need to be as thick as your forefinger. The larger the tile, generally, the thicker you need to make it, but if you make it really thick, eventually you have to carve out some of the back because it needs to dry evenly. You don't need it this big. So I'm gonna get my needle tool and trim some of it down. So you got this. Now what I showed you how to do is you have eventually, throw everything off here. So you go like this, and you're just trying to stretch it, and you got to do this standing up. And then turn it this way. You see how it thins it out here and not there? That's when you get your fist to go like that. And remember I told you to get some kind of round bottle. Someone said they had a wine bottle they could use. You know what? That is a good idea. Just don't let your clay get really wet because it will stick to the wine bottle. And see how I pick it up and flip it around? See all the wetness right there? The clay sticks to that and it makes it hard to stretch it out. And this is something that for some reason some kids have a hard time with. And I don't know why. I don't think it doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I think it's because they're not paying attention. This wet here sticks to the wet here and makes it hard to move around. Now a rolling pin flattens this out in no time. See that? Done, right? So the edges are thinner than the top. I'm just going to do it one more time. Done. Now I'm going to put it on top of here. You want to decide which is your good side. And they're all about the same. So I can see handprints there. That's a no-no. So now I have to get rid of it. All right. I'll put it on here. I'm going to put it in the center. On the edges is probably thinner, and the center is probably a little bit thicker, and that's what I want. Make sure your pin tool is straight up and down, not at an angle. It's called an undercut when you do it too much at an angle. Now, the best way to get rid of it is kind of go like that. There. Now, I don't want my scraps drying out. Remember, that's something that you don't want to see happen. Artists never leave their clay laying out like that. You put it away. Now, this has got a rough edge on there, and you want to get rid of that rough edge. See that rough edge? You could, if that got fired in a kiln, there's a lot of sand in clay, and it's glass. Sand becomes glass when it gets melted. You could cut your fingers on there quite easily. So see this sponge? You kind of go like that around the edge here. See, I drape it around the edge. Now, how thick should this be? Your forefinger. About a 1/2 inch to 3/4. This happens to be the thinner of the ones I made. But let's go right here. So it's a 1/2 inch. Don't make it any thinner than a 1/2 inch. But 3/4 is good. So a little bit on the thick side is better than a little bit on the thin side. And I'm going to drape my sponge all the way around. Let's get rid of that. Then I'm going to go right here and do the same thing. And I can't say this enough. Figure out which side you like best. I'm getting rid of tablecloth marks. Now this is not even thickness. Let me show you something. See how thin this is? It's about the size of my fingernail. And I go over here and it's thicker. But you know what? Life goes on. And You can see all these hand marks in there now. I don't like that. They're gonna get covered up a little bit. All right, for right now, you all have to do this when you make your skull slab. You have to put it in a plastic bag. There you go. Now what do you do with it? It's in a plastic bag. You gotta make sure that the plastic is touching the slab. Get rid of the air in there. And then the clipboard I gave you is, I covered my clipboard. I covered my clipboard like with like an old t-shirt. Why? Because if you go to work on the clipboard, let's say if you actually want to work on the clipboard, it will make this clipboard kind of damp and warped. This absorbs moisture. So here's a nice, neat little surface for you to work on if you need to work on something that's nice and flat. Anyway, you're going to put your skull on the clipboard. And then that's not enough, because remember I said you got to double bag it. If you don't double bag it, things dry up. So find a bag. I'm going to put it in this grocery outlet bag. And you want to keep it from dropping on the ground. So there's my skull. It's in there. See it? It's in there. You're not going to draw flowers and leaves and stuff. You don't do this, okay? This is not expensive paper. This is, no, you're not doing that. Okay, so, but what you can do, I'll get this flat piece of clay right here. I'm going to show you how to make a leaf. Now today, by the end of the period, I want you to make 2 leaves and a flower. And I'm going to give you some ideas, and then maybe you can do one of your own if you want. So you have a flat piece of clay here. In the past, I've had the kids make these things called Green Man masks. And it's a human face with a bunch of leaves around it. It's a mythical person. And what I like to do is the maple leaf for this. See how wet and shiny it is? Kind of get rid of that excess moisture. So if you draw a leaf out, and I'm making this really big so you can see what I'm doing. If you draw a leaf out, you don't leave it like that. I call this very wooden. See how stiff and straight edge that looks? Take the time to do this. You pinch the edges, and then see how much softer and rounder that is? You have got to do this. If you don't do this, I'm going to tell you to do this when you turn this in today, because I want you to do this correctly. And that means, correctly means taking the time to clean it up, to finish it off, like you know that it needs a little bit of work. And we're talking very little work. There. Now what do? I like to use the rib. If you're going to use a pin tool to make lines, you got to make sure you lay it down like this. If you hold it straight up and down, it makes goobers. I like drawing with the rib. And you can just go in there like this. See, it makes these make too thin of lines. See, I think that's too thin. And it's not that interesting. Whereas if I do it on this side, and I use that curve, if you've got a curve, if you don't, you can just kind of curve it on your own. And I push the clay, and see how I'm holding it in my hand? So I'm actually sculpting this, not just drawing a line. And to me, that just has way more character than that. Okay, so there's that leaf. That's a maple leaf. Now I'm going to show you how to make that leaf that you use. You start off with a teardrop shape. Now what I like to do is get my sponge, and this is getting dry again, and I use my sponge to roll it, to keep my clay from drying out. And I had to wipe my hands off because they're getting too slippery, and they're still a little bit slippery. I cannot say that enough. Get an old t-shirt, piece of fabric, it doesn't matter. Remember I was passing those out? I still have some more. You roll it, and then you go like this. You put your palms together. You make a teardrop shape, right? I kind of showed you how to do that when we're making egg shapes. This is way bigger than what you need. You put your thumb in there and you smush and you sculpt. Then I'm going to get another sponge. You smooth out those cracks. So this is something you have got to learn to pay attention to, is cracks. It doesn't look good unless there are some sculptures that have that kind of cracked look, but it's done on purpose to make it look like it's earth or skin, I don't know, lots of things. But they are not appropriate for what we're doing. You can kind of stretch this out by putting your thumb there and going like that. So see how soft and sensuous that is? I've had people describe that clay as being very sensuous because it's very soft and rounded and you move it. Just saying. Okay, so this is the top of the leaf. This is the bottom. And I'm using this modeling rib. There's another rib here. I got all kinds of ribs. So what you do is, here's the center right here. Off to the center, you're going to smush and roll it this way. And then you're going to smush and roll it this way. So now you have the main vein in your leaf. Now to do the side view, you just go, you can use this end, you can use this end, you can, if you have one like this, you push just the edge in there. You want to make it kind of round. And see how I twist my, so see that edge there? That gives it some interest. You can also go like this. Use your rib to help sculpt. It's one of my favorite tools to sculpt with. And you can go like that. Now, if you go like that, you end up with an edge that looks like this. Notice the edge here versus the edge here. It's two different edges. You decide which one you want to do. You can even tear this up a little bit more and bring it in like that. See that? You can even make it more fluttered. The main thing is you don't want it to look like it got ran over by a truck and it's just flat. You want to give it some life. Even when you put these on there, you can kind of bend them. Anyway, there's teardrop shape, maple leaf shape. And then the other one that looks like an eyeball, that's easy. I don't need to tell you that. Well, let me show you. So if you decide to make a leaf like this, like the one Emily did, always take the time to smooth, get the good side. So she just went like this. And I think these are kind of boring, but she did a good job. So you want to always smooth out that edge there. Get the sponge and smooth out those rough spots, the tablecloth marks. And what she did, I know all of you can do this. You can either get a pencil and it makes a nice line. I like the line the pencil makes because it's a little bit bigger. And then you can actually use the edge of this. You can put lots of little tiny lines. And get rid of goobers that you see there. It's easier to, if you lay your pen tool down, you don't get as many goobers. Or you can try a pencil. And if you want to make one leaf with two different ideas going on, I'm happy with that. That means you're thinking. Personally, I like this side better than this side. Okay, so there's 3 ideas for leaves, and you need to make 2 of them. Flowers. Well, I don't like, the lady that we watched, she made a flower like this. And I think she was teaching little kids because I just don't think that's a very good flower. And it's not, you guys can do better. I know you can do better because I've seen better. This clay here feels like it's getting a little dry. So what do? I put a little water on it, put it aside, and get another piece of clay that I feel is softer. So you're going to make teardrops, 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 teardrops. So you start off with a little ball of clay. And the best, if you want everything to be about the same size, you're better off making all the balls first. So I'm going to make 5 petals. Now you can do it this, there's 2 ways you can do the flower for this particular flower. So what you can do is just get your thumb and just push like that By the way, I didn't show this to all my other classes. I'm just showing it to you guys. And you can go like this and like that. There you go, simple little flower. And then you can put the middle part in. And what I like to do with that is get, remember those things I told you to look for at home? So to get textures going on. I don't like that one. I'm going to use the end of this pin here. There you go. That's one flower right there. Let me show you how to make another one. Another one would be you get, let's do 5 petals again, 5 balls of clay. And I'm doing this real fast, guys, but it really does not take that long. Now you have to think about what's going on with your skull and how much space you have and where you can put things. I'm making these a little big so you can see them. Make that into a teardrop and push. Make that into a teardrop and push. Now, if your edges are getting cracked, you got to take the time to smooth them out. I wanted just to hurry up and get this done. And push. And push. This is all sculpted. When you are using your pen tool, you're drawing pretty much on clay. You're not sculpting it. And push. Okay. This is the top of the flower. On this one, the fat part was the top. On this one, the pointy part's going to be the end. That doesn't look good, but I want to hurry up and get it done. And so I'm going to put that on the bottom there. Make it go into a point. There you go. There you go. See, 2 different flowers. They look similar, but they're not exactly the same. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get my pencil and dip it in some water. Do you see the water? Let me zoom out for a minute. I'm getting my pencil wet. And then I'm going to draw just a simple line down the middle of this. The interior, you can make, instead of punching little balls in there, little circles, you can actually make little circles. I had a kid ask me if they can go online and look for some more flowers to make in clay, and of course you can. Just make sure they don't have a bunch of goobers on them. That's my thing, no goobers, right? Okay, so there's that one. And one last flower. The reason why I didn't say do 2 flowers is I just wanted to make sure you had time. 2 leaves and a flower. That's all you need to make. But I'm showing you different types of flowers. This is a calla lily. Starting off with my favorite shape, teardrop shape. What's the difference between a teardrop and, let's say, an almond shape? Well, they're kind of pretty much the same, except for this part's more elongated. What I'm showing you how to make right now is a calla lily. It's those white flowers that you see in a lot of Mexican paintings. They're used for when people die, they put calla lilies. People like growing them, they're a bulb, and they come up in the spring. Okay, and then you're making the stuff, I can't pronounce the word, stamen. It's the middle part of the calla lily, and it's kind of fat at the end, like a Q-tip. I think someone needs to come back in. I don't think was ever here. Yeah, she wasn't here. Anyway, okay, so the fat part, and then you take this and you fold it over that stamen, and now you've got a calla lily. Now the leaves of the calla lily are just these long pointed things. And even if they're not, who cares? You're gonna make a long pointed thing. So that is more like a carrot shape. And you shape it like this, and it's pointed right here. And again, I use either this one or this one. You have a rib, you know what to do. Gently push down one side. And I'm gonna just make this side raised and this side not raised. I'm pushing it down. And you can develop that even more. You go like this, just on one side. It can be smooth, use a side. And then you to figure out where that should go. So there's a calla lily. Now this is a pretend skull. So let's talk about the elements that I made. So the eyes need to go here, but the eyes could actually just be two flowers, right? So there's my eyes. Let's pretend these match. There's your eyes. Now, if those are your eyes, this flower is way too big, so I'm not going to use that. But what I can do is over here, put a leaf for the chin in there, and then maybe you got to put the teeth in, and then you got to think about what's going on up here. So all of these are too big. But what you should do is make your parts and put them on there and don't stick them on right away. That's why I was having you guys making these separate, because you're going to make them and then put them on there. And there's other ways to do this, okay? But I wanted to show you very simple how to make leaves and flowers. All right? Any questions?